Anyone go to the march last week? Yeah, thought so. I guess somewhere around 3.2 million people marched just across the 50 states here in the US. Of course, many more marched across the globe. It was electrifying for so many people. People of all genders and backgrounds and ages and demographics rose up carrying unforgettable signs and chanting mantras of love, tolerance, and respect for humankind. It was the largest march in the history of our country, I'm told. Unbelievable. For so many, it was a remarkable high, a feeling of deep comfort and validation. For so many, it was empowering, to say the very least. But since then, some other history was also made. Among other things, our president signed an order that will cut off contraception to women around the globe. It will reduce access to cancer screening, to protection against HIV, and to Zika screening. It will almost certainly increase women's deaths in some of the poorest, most vulnerable places in the world. I'm fearful that it's only the beginning of a strategy against women, religious and racial minorities, and against people who are economically insecure. Immigration bans, wall building, everything else. I can't really wrap my head around it. The juxtaposition between the high of the march and the anguish of these orders leaves me a bit breathless, to be honest. I don't know about you. So what do we do when empowerment falls far short of power? What do we do when being vocal falls far short of garnering votes? What do we do when protests don't produce policies? Every day has been a series of harsh lessons in reality. No single answer is a panacea. Of course, there are multiple strategies and modalities to speak truth to power. We know this. But for me, as I prepared to teach Torah the morning of the march, one word kept coming to mind: resistance. The Torah portion last week opens with the ominous phrase, "A new Pharaoh arose that did not know Joseph." That Pharaoh got nervous about a growing minority, us, the Hebrews. Pharaoh thought we were too numerous, so he enslaved us. He also issued a decree saying to the midwives, "When you deliver the Hebrew women, look at their birth stool. If it's a boy, kill him." The midwives don't listen to Pharaoh, right? You know the story. At risk of their own lives, they don't kill the baby Hebrew boys. I read that what the midwives did might be the first written act of civil disobedience in world literature ever. Resistance. Second part of the Parsha. An Israelite woman named Yocheved gave birth to a baby boy. For 3 months, she hid him so he wouldn't be killed. When she couldn't hide him anymore, she placed him in a wicker basket along the Nile. That was his best shot at survival. Again, resistance. And finally, Pharaoh's daughter was going to the Nile to bathe. She found that same basket and realized the child inside must be a Hebrew. She ignored the decree also, even though she was Pharaoh's own daughter. She even went so far as to find the mother of the child to nurse the baby, and when that was over, Pharaoh's daughter raised him as her own son. Of course, this tiny baby became Moses. Very good. Moses was raised on the backs of female resistors to political power. Resistance. That's how we survived slavery. Our problems are not the problems of the Bible. To the contrary, we've encountered unparalleled fortune and privilege in our time. But now might be the time to think about acts of legal, nonviolent resistance. Today is International Holocaust Remembrance Day. I was thinking about Marion Pritchard, who died this past December. Some of you probably know her story. In 1942, she was a social worker in Amsterdam. She was not Jewish. She saw Nazis picking up children by an arm or a leg or by their hair and hurling them into trucks like a sack of salt. At that moment, when she saw it riding her bike, she did nothing. She witnessed and she stood by. But for every moment after that, she did everything to save us, particularly Jewish children. She registered Jewish babies as her own babies. She obtained false papers to help Jews survive. She obtained medical care for Jews in need. She helped rescue maybe 150 people. Resistance. Our problems are not the problems of the Holocaust. To the contrary, we've encountered unparalleled fortune and privilege in our time. But now might be the time to think about acts of legal, nonviolent resistance. Resistance is embedded in our history, our literature, and maybe even our kishkas. Abraham resisted God's proclamation to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Esther resisted the Persian king's intent to kill the Jews. Daniel resisted the king's demand to worship foreign gods. It's all over our sacred literature. If our world seems to be careening towards a place you don't like, resist. Slow the inertia. It is not for us to complete the work, but neither are we free to desist from it. One more caveat. I think it's important to say that this congregation is not some sort of political monolith. We respect and cherish each other regardless of political views. Loving thy neighbor as thyself is the bottom line. It's not love thy neighbor as thyself unless they voted different than you. And Jews, by the way, are not a monolith. The only thing Jews have really ever agreed upon is monotheism. And ever since then, things have become a little complicated. If you do not want to resist the new direction of our country, if you want to support it, then that is a conversation we must welcome as well. But if you do not agree with the direction things are going, don't be hysterical. Be resistant. Our historical and literary past can be our playbook. We don't always succeed, but we do need to pursue. There is a teaching that God is hiding in the world, and our task is to let the divine emerge from our deeds. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be so. Shabbat Shalom.